Welcome into Hometown Huddle. We're pleased to be joined this evening by Harrison Central baseball coach Mike Valesko. Coach, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure you're in an ecstatic mood after the game you just witnessed. You just coached your guys to a 4-3 win over Martins Ferry as you are coming off a big win over Steubenville. And as we roll into this weekend, which is the third annual Maz Classic out at Mazeroski Field. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, easy drive tonight. Drive by the studio every night. So, happy to come up here. And like you said, definitely you're in a better mood when you come up after a win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you guys played well. We'll talk Maz Classic first because, that's coming up this weekend. Lots of incredible matchups, I guess. And you guys are playing in one of those games. Outside of your game or including your game, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to the most, and some of the most intriguing, I guess, storylines with some of the teams, big teams that you guys got coming in?
Yeah, for sure. We're excited. It's our third one that we've had. And every year I keep saying that the competition keeps getting better and the quality team just keeps getting better as well. So 2 games on Friday night. Locally, Edison kicks off that with Lake Center Christian, who was state runner-up in D7 last year, lost a heartbreaker to Highland, and then Edison being a really good local team that everybody knows about. And then, we play the nightcap with Waynedale, who's won 3 of the last 4 state titles. We know a lot about Waynedale. Yep. Obviously, we saw them, lift up that trophy against us in 23 in the state championship game. So really excited to get those guys on the schedule. They're the number 1 team ranked in state, and just excited to play good baseball. So Friday night, 2 really good games, and then we're back at it early morning, 10 a.m. starting on Saturday. 5 games on Saturday, and right out the gate, you got state champs Highland coming to town against Indian Creek. So a lot of really good games. I think the exciting part for us is, we say it all the time. We think we have the nicest high school baseball facility.
Sure.
It's got to be up there in the Midwest.
We've heard that from other folks.
Yeah, we're pretty blessed here at Harrison Central. So we think we have the nicest facility, and then to bring in the quality of baseball that we're bringing into the High Valley and bringing it right here in Harrison County, we're so excited. You got 3 state champions coming to town from last year, and then 7 district champions as well. So really excited for the quality of baseball we have.
And you said Highland and Creek is game 1 on Saturday.
Yeah, right out the gate. Who Creek is number 4 in the state in Division III. Highland, I believe, is in the top 5. I think they're 2. So right out the gate, 2 really good teams. We've seen Indian Creek 3 times. Unfortunately, they've got us all 3 times. So Coach Cottis does a heck of a job there. And just 2 years ago, they were playing in Akron. Last year, they were playing in the regional finals. Yeah. Lost some really good players, and right back at it again this year. I think they're 17-3. So really good baseball. And then you go right into later. The next game is Toronto and Waynedale. So Waynedale's coming down for 2 games.
Are they staying in town, or are they heading back?
Yeah, staying in town.
Perfect.
And then they get to play Toronto, which if you know baseball in the state of Ohio, Toronto baseball. Yep. What Coach Perkins does there is just incredible. So excited for game 2 of the day. And then that leads into game 3, Wheelersburg and Ridgewood. Ridgewood, Eastern District team, somebody we know a lot about, who's given us a lot of heartbreaks, unfortunately, the last couple of years. Sure. And then Wheelersburg, who we were fortunate enough to play in 23 in the regional finals.
That was out at Lancaster, right?
Yep. So we built a really good relationship with Coach Moore. Coach Laney's been on the show.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have much hair, but I got a little more hair than Coach Laney, I think. So
he wasn't brave enough to show it.
Yeah, so they may have won the district championship last year over us, but at least I got a little more hair on my head.
You're not pulling it out either.
Yeah, that's right. It might be after this weekend. So 2 really good baseball teams. Coach Laney does a heck of a job and returns a lot of guys from last year's team. So we're excited to get them back down there for this year as well. Then the next game right after that, state champion Wheeling Central. I think is one of the best teams I've seen in the High Valley in the last 15 years. That team is just incredible. They got scholarship kids all over the field. They just roll out arm after arm after arm. That's mid-80s. For a small school, it's just incredible what they got.
All their sports seem to be like that as of late. And they're coming off an OVAC championship, and Barnesville's a good team as well, and they've beaten them a couple of times, put up some pretty good scores. It seems what goes into, I guess, as we look at the organizational aspect of all of this, being the coach at Harrison, I'm sure this is in coordination with your AD and everybody involved in the administration. But I'm sure you kind of hold a lot of the cards as far as getting this set up and the contacts for getting these teams out there. I guess what's the biggest headache as far as getting this thing set up? Is this something to where, come middle of May this year, in a couple of weeks, you're already looking at the 27 Maz Classic.
Yeah, for sure. We're already talking to teams already. Got a couple teams already that said, they definitely want in. I think that's what's cool is they see the competition that we're bringing in. They see the facility. It's ran really well. It's right before the postseason, so you're getting a tournament atmosphere. So we got teams that are calling already saying, "Hey, pencil us in, please. We want to come in." And Coach Hibbs does a tremendous job. Really says, what can I do to help? But lets us kind of run within stuff. And DJ Watson does a great job. Posting stuff on social media, and you do as well. And it draws attention. I think for us, though, we look at who's playing here at the late end of the season, May into June. And then you kind of look at their roster and say, okay, this team, we knew Waynedale was going to be really good again.
Sure.
We knew Toronto was going to be really good, and Wheeling Central was going to be really good, and St. Clairsville and Garaway. And Carrollton was district champs last year.
Okay,
so you say, hey, let's get these guys here. We want the best quality baseball that we could possibly get. And we're excited to have that again this weekend.
Carrollton plays in the second to last game, and then you got St. Clairsville and Garaway in Game 5 on Saturday.
Yeah. So Carrollton slid in just today.
Okay.
New Albany, Coach Sandman, a really good friend, but they're building a new complex. He's playing 27 away games this year. So
I gotcha.
Pretty difficult for those guys, and just their schedule's really kind of backloaded here a little bit. And he said, hey, if you can find somebody, please. So I messaged and called Carrollton today, and immediately they jumped right all over it. Again, I think when you're bringing in quality teams and the event's really well ran, you get teams that say hey, I want in. So we called Coach Conley, and within 20 minutes he was saying, yes, we'll be there for sure.
Well, and it strikes me as something that nobody's necessarily, I guess, afraid of. You hate to use that term, but in all honesty, some coaches might not want to, some coaches, all that competition is a turn on. Others, it's a turn off. But the way it's placed, I don't know if this is the case the last couple of years, but I know this year, tonight is the cutoff for the voting for playoff. And so, all of these games are basically to just get better as you move into the postseason. Is that by design?
Yeah, for sure. We want it late in the year, as you lead into the postseason. I think that, like you said, some people would run from it and some people run to it. And I think it's not by mistake that the teams that are here are running to competition late in the year.
Yeah.
And then you look at what they do in the postseason. I don't think that's by accident.
Yeah, you're going to run into competition anyway at this time of year.
Yeah.
That's May baseball for you.
Yeah, for sure. Our back end of the schedule, we think, is as difficult as anybody. Like I said, you got Waynedale.
Yep.
Then we got Wheeling Central next week. You got Toronto a couple times. You got Olentangy Orange coming down. So we want to play the best teams that we can possibly play.
Right.
And we feel like we schedule that, and we understand. And in 23, when we, made it to the state championship game, I think we lost the last three, going into the postseason.
Okay.
We go down to Toronto, and I think they scored 17 runs on us. And, but our guys understood that this competition, was going to help us come postseason time. So, and I think everybody here this weekend is saying the same thing. You want to win a state championship at our level at D5, you got to beat Waynedale.
Yeah.
Well, let's measure up to them and let's see what we got.
Yeah.
And Highland saying the same thing, and Edison saying the same thing, and St. Clairsville and Garaway, they're in D5. They want to see Waynedale. They want to see, you want to see good teams, and so. I don't think it's by accident that the better teams run the events like this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before we get to commercial, I think we've got 3 of them to hit tonight. We've had basketball coaches and we've had wrestling coaches all say the same thing. They like to, we got good guys coming in here, and they like to throw their guys in the fire to see what they're made of. And so you can kind of envision, what that's like for a football team, a basketball team, a wrestling team. We've had guys talk about that, but specifically for a baseball team, when you run into a good team, what about that matchup in particular do you think makes your guys better?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is you can't simulate the arms that you see in good game. So, you're seeing a good arm. And in postseason, the way that, especially in the Eastern District, the way the bracket's set up, you play a game, you get a week off, you play a game, then you play 2 days later. You're not seeing the 4 and 5 man that you might see on a Thursday night when everybody's played all week. You are seeing somebody's number 1 or number 2 100%.
Okay.
So when you play these teams, you're seeing top arms. So I think that really helps you. And then I think you have to win the game. When you play a team like Waynedale or Willersburg or St. Clairsville, all these teams, they're not going to beat themselves.
Yep.
So, and that's what's happening. If you want to win a district championship, and we've been on the good side of it and we've been on the bad side of it, you have to win the game. Because if you don't, Ridgewood's not going to make 5 errors in a district championship game and get beat.
Yeah.
So, and when you play these caliber of teams, you got to go win the baseball game. So I think it really puts you in just a really competitive mindset of, I've got to play not 2 good innings. I can't just have 1 inning where I score 4 runs and think that's going to be enough.
Sure.
I got to play 7 innings of really good baseball.
Yeah. And that kind of ties back to, you can't be result oriented in your thinking in the way that you play. It's the process. Every at bat is a new play. It has a life of its own, and it also illustrates that build up throughout the season to where, by the end of the year, whether it's before the cutoff, whatever, in the postseason, we have to make sure we field those ground balls and make the throw, because a Ridgewood or a Waynedale, because they're going to. So we have to as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it, it's a process. We say it all the time, it's process over outcome. You can have a good outcome, but if the process isn't good, it's by accident and you're not going to keep getting that same outcome. So we really focus on the process. And if you have a good process in baseball, especially, the outcome's going to take care of itself. Whether that be I'm stepping in the box, my process has to be good. It's got to be good when I'm in the batter or in the on deck circle. It's got to be good when I walk in that box and know what I'm doing. My process has to be really good. It's got to be consistent, and then a lot of times your outcome will take care of itself.
Yeah. Let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back. We'll dive maybe more into kind of process-oriented thinking, or take a closer look at your program and the things that you guys have done. So with that being said, we'll be right back after this. Spring is on the horizon, and with that comes spring cleaning. But why do the cleaning yourself when you can call Elite Mobile Power Washing of Cadiz, Ohio, 740-491-1120. Listen, you need your gutters cleaned out, concrete washed off, the side of your house washed off, pool decks, heavy equipment, you name it, they can wash it, and it'll look better than it has ever looked before. Once again, all you got to do is give them a call, 740-491-1120. More details in the description of the video or the podcast show notes. And with that, back to the show. We're back. It seems like it was very quick. Coach Mike Valesko, once again, of Harrison Central Baseball. We just talked a moment ago about process-oriented thinking, and I'm interested. You were on the staff, I believe, in 13 when you guys went to, at that time it was Columbus.
Yeah.
And obviously the head guy just, what feels like not very long ago in 23. What would you, obviously talent helps, and a lot of guys would say that, but what would you chalk up as being the most important piece of those groups that were able to make such a run at a state title?
Yeah, I think mentally how locked in they were, and then not just locked in, but how mentally tough they were. I said just before break that in 23 we go into that and we lost the last couple games. We gave up a ton of runs at Toronto, but we were able to mentally say, okay, this is good competition. We can play our best baseball, but we're ready to go. So I think, when you're strong-minded, I think that's one characteristic that really sticks out with those groups. And we had similar groups in 2016. I say it all the time. I think 2016, no slight to the other teams.
Yeah.
That may have been one of the best teams we've had. I mean, and we lose in the regional by a run. The pitching on that team was so incredible. So, they didn't make it at that time. It was Columbus. We didn't reach the goal that we wanted to, but the process was really good. They were mentally tough. We just got beat that day. And you play in the regionals, sometimes it's a single elimination tournament, and
the other guys can practice too.
Yeah, they practice too, and they're really good. So I think it's that. I think it's and I said it so many times on the show already today. And you come to practice here, the process just has to be good. It's every ground ball at practice. It's got to be the same every single rep. You've got to be intentional with your focus, intentional with your rep. It can't just be I feel the ball, I throw it in the bucket, and I move on. It's I'm working on my footwork, I'm arm action, all those things. And I think that really, when guys buy into that and they take it serious every single rep, I think that's something those teams have in common. And then the next thing is, and you could argue which one's more important than the other, competitive. Those teams you mentioned, the 2013, the 2023, the 2016, even our 2018 team, I say it all the time, I don't know how good of baseball players we had that year. I love that group, and they were fun to be around and coach. And when the lights came on, those guys just found ways to compete and win. I look back at some of their stats. I look at some of the guys on the field, and I'm like, I don't know if they were very good, some of these guys. And, we get beaten a heartbreaker to Steubenville in the district finals. I think they were in the run of like 3 straight trips to the Final Four.
Okay.
Down at Cambridge, and Kelvin Bickerstaff, who's now with the Red Sox and their organization, was playing for them. I think they had 7 of their 9 starters that went to college and played some type of sport, whether it's football, baseball, basketball. So it was a really competitive group, but they were just so competitive.
Yeah.
And it was, I might not, my swing might not be real pretty. I might not throw real hard. I might look funny catching a fly ball, but I get the job done.
Yeah.
And they stuck with their process, and they were just so competitive. So I think, the more competitive you are, I think it goes hand in hand with how good you are.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're not competitive, you can't beat Willersburg in the regional.
Right. No matter how much talent.
No. So, I mean, we want to be competitive with everything that we do. And then when you get a combination of all that, you get a motivated and a strong-minded and a talented kid and stuff. Then you got somebody like a Treston Nemeth and Caden Drosco and all those guys that we've been so fortunate to have the last couple of years. And I think that stuff matters a ton.
To what degree do you think all of those things that you just mentioned are coachable, right? You get those guys in, let's say, January, February, whenever you're starting with them, and maybe you kind of have an idea as far as your juniors and seniors, what they're made of, but you've got to instill that mentality in a freshman or even a sophomore who maybe didn't fully buy in the year before. How much of that you could preach, being coachable, you could preach being competitive. Do you find that some guys actually improve in those aspects throughout the course of their career, or is it more so, this guy has it, this guy, we don't have to instill it in him at all? What's the level of coachability tied to those?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the expectations got to be there. It's, hey, you may be a good player, but if you're not going to compete and you're not going to want to win, you probably can't play for us. I love my guys to death. I got an 11U team, with my son on the team, and then obviously, all the way through our high school guys. I think it's in my DNA. It's who I am. I'm gonna get on you,
Yeah.
and it's nothing personal. It's just we're competitive,
Right?
And you got to be able to take it, and sometimes I got to take it too. I had that conversation with the kid today that last night, or 2 nights ago in a game, get on a kid, chirps back. I can live with it if we're all going in the same direction and we're competitive. I think Bob Huggins used to say that all the time. You come watch our practice, you'll just see guys yelling, like coaches and players yelling at each other.
Right.
Is that what we want? Absolutely not. But if we're all going in the same direction and we're competing, we can live with it. And I think it's coachable. I think it's because sometimes you figure out if I'm not going to compete, I can't play.
Yeah.
But I think some guys just have it. And I love, sometimes when you see a kid that maybe their skill set's not great,
Right.
but they compete their butt off, and they just turn into a really good baseball player because of that. And we've had those guys, and those are some of your favorite players. And, I go, like you brought the 2013 team. I'm going to throw out a name, Drew Horn. Drew Horn played third base for us on that team. And I remember being in the dugout standing beside Todd Dunlap, and we needed a really big hit in the regional finals in the 6th inning against Waverly. And I remember Todd saying, like, hey, we need a hit here. And Todd and I still talk about it. The way he turned around and looked at us and shook his head, threw his bat weight down on the ground, and walked in the box. Drew was probably a 275 career hitter.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if I had any more confidence than anybody in my life.
Yeah.
I knew Drew was getting a hit when he walked in that box. He was just a competitive kid. And those guys, you'll go to war with any day of the week. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you talked about sometimes a coach and a player might go back and forth a little bit. I think on both sides, there's a little bit of, as competitive people and as a lot of personalities, you see this with officials, you may see this with coaches, commissioners. Everybody has an ego.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways that maybe you measure a guy is, okay, how often do people let their ego kind of get in the way of getting better? Because I think everybody in the organization has to be aligned in the same goals.
Yeah.
And if coaches are in a different position than players, sometimes you, as a coach, you can say, no, listen to me. I know what to do here.
Yeah.
I'm the coach, you're not.
Yeah.
But there's other times where maybe sometimes as a coach, you have to take a step back and be like, man, what am I not doing right or well enough? And I think players, especially if they're a talented player, if they're a good player, if they are competitive, they've got that as well. And it's very important to know when to set that aside. I say this to almost everybody we talk to because sometimes I have to do it with other things. How often do you have those kinds of conversations with your players that, we all have personalities. We all are competitive. We all want good things, but you have to understand when to put it aside and focus on the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, we have those conversations with kids all the time. You may disagree with what we're going to do. Sometimes I'm going to tell you too bad. I'm sorry you don't like it. And then other times, whether it be a guy coming off the mound, we had it tonight, and he said like, hey, I feel better about my slider. I need you guys to call more sliders for me. That's fine. If you got conviction with it and you truly believe your training backs that up, you show up day one and you say, hey, I don't want to throw more sliders. I don't care. I mean, you're not committed to the process. But when you are as invested as we are, then yeah, let's have that conversation. And that's what we got. That's what we have right now. You can go around our whole lineup basically. Starting. I always start when I write my lineup with the catching position. Colton Miser. I see that guy 11 months a year. You can't go 12. State tells you can't do 12 months a year. You got to take a month off. But I see that guy 11 months a year. You go to first base, Hunter Snyder. I see that guy 11 months of the year.
Yeah.
Cash Meadows. He transferred in this year back home. I saw him since he transferred in May. Lance Smith. I see him 11 months of the year. Right. He's going from football practice. He's making sure he gets some reps in basketball. I still see him during basketball season. Gage Stone King. I see him 11 months of the year. And you keep going all the way around our field, and you see that. So when you're invested in it, we can have those conversations. The more invested you are and you're like us and you're there every day, you're committed to the process, we welcome that.
When you tell a player, because as coaches, you tell players what to do. When you tell a player to do something, what is the ideal, whether it's verbal, nonverbal, what's the ideal response out of that player?
Yeah, I think you want to see, I'm a huge body language guy.
Okay.
We tell you to do something, agree or disagree. I want you saying, hey, coach believes in me to get this job done. He believes that this is going to help us win. I'm all in on it. I'm a huge body language guy. We're fortunate. We're probably one of the only programs around locally that has the Huddle system at the baseball field. Yeah. We have 4 cameras. Those cameras don't lie.
Nope.
And I had a conversation today. A kid came out of the game the other night, and I told him, I said, I watched you on camera, from the dugout view the whole game. And I said, I wanted to see what you did when you're sitting on the bench to see if you celebrated your team's success. Alabama softball, I know a lot of people probably watching the show probably don't follow Alabama softball, but Pat Murphy, just an incredible guy when he talks about Mudita. He then led it into the basketball program, and the football team has talked about it a ton when Saban was there. But it's having joy for your teammates' success.
Right.
And Tom Marker at Olentangy Orange, good friend of mine, brought that to us, and we talk about that. And you may be upset that you're not in the lineup. You may be upset that maybe your role tonight was a pinch runner, or maybe it was to warm up the left fielder. Yeah. Maybe it was to warm up the pitcher. You may not like your role, but what's your body language like? Are you happy for the guy that's in the field, playing over top of you? Yeah, everybody wants to be one of the 9 in the lineup. Sure. I get it. And but unfortunately, that's just not how it works. So I'm a huge body language guy. When we tell you to do something, we want the body language to stay the same, whether you agree or disagree. It's got to stay the same.
Yeah, and again, the goal of the team, because when you put that uniform on, I don't see names on the back of those.
Yeah, right.
It says Huskies.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs to be aligned in the same goals for the team.
Yeah.
And I think Bo Schembechler, the team.
Yeah.
And so if they have a role that is not the same level as somebody else's role, who bats, does really well, and then goes and plays on defense and everything else, if they just have a small role, you're still helping your team, because I think as the player, you have to have conviction in your coaches that they are putting you out there because you give them, whether it's for one pitch in a game or if it's the entire game, the coaches have the trust in you that you give the best chance to win.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that just matters. It's we've said it before. It's everybody has a piece of the puzzle. And that puzzle is not going to be complete unless all the pieces are there and they're all put together the correct way. So some guys, their pieces might be a little bit bigger than others.
Some pieces, it's this beautiful picture of a beach, and sometimes it's just a solid blue piece because it's the sky.
But that small little piece matters.
Yeah.
And if you look at a 1,000-piece puzzle and one piece is out of place, you notice it.
Yep.
And so you may think I'm just a small piece of this, but it matters a ton. And everybody's got to have a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Let's do one more commercial, let's do another commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue our conversation and focus a little more on Huskies baseball. We'll be back after this.
On May 22nd, you're invited to make a difference as we honor Monroe's legacy in true Masters fashion.
Join us at Caddis Country Club for the Monroe's Masters Memorial Golf Outing in support of Pathways for Inclusion and the Monroe's Mission Scholarship Fund, helping families raising children with disabilities access opportunities in rural communities.
Register your team, become a sponsor, and help us honor Monroe and make an impact in our community.
Visit us at pathwaysforinclusion.org or click the link to sign up or for sponsorship opportunities. We'll see you on the greens.
And we're back. Welcome back. Once again, joined by Mike Valesko, head baseball coach at Harrison Central. Coach, let's talk a little bit about your team this season. I believe 15-7 right now after the win over Martins Ferry. I guess we can kind of work backwards a little bit. I've seen your guys 2 nights in a row with one off day in between. And I've noticed throughout the course of the season, you talk about that competitiveness and you talk about that finding a way to win. And what I've noticed about your guys as we move closer to the end of the year is that's starting to come out of them a little bit. And I think that's been one of the areas of improvement for your team. Mm-hmm. What kind of journey has it been, have your team taken to get to this point in the season?
Yeah, I definitely think, we're playing better against better teams late.
Okay.
And I think everybody sees a lot of guys that have been in the lineup for a couple years, and they automatically think, oh, that's probably a team that's got 5, 6 seniors in the lineup. We don't. We have 2. So we have a lot of younger guys in the lineup. You go left field to sophomore, center field to freshman. You go sophomore behind the plate, sophomore first base, Cash Meadows Jr. at second base, sophomore at shortstop, third base is a junior. So we're young in those spots, and they're talented, really good baseball players. But sometimes, you're a good player. You can. It's easy to beat some bad teams. Let's just be honest. But until you beat some good teams, I don't know how much you believe yet.
Right.
And we said at that one point in the year, we were beating the teams we needed to beat.
Yeah.
But the teams that we wanted to beat, we say it all the time. I am not afraid to say it. I love Coach Sleva and what he has at St. Clairsville. That's our rival.
Yeah.
And we want to beat them. Mm-hmm. And I've said Justin Clifford, their AD, who's obviously, very familiar with the rivalry with St. C and Harrison. It's a big game for us. And, there's teams on the schedule that you circle and you say, we want to beat. And St. Clairsville was one of them. Unfortunately, we came up short against them, and I didn't think we played very well. And we talked about that. Then you go straight from games with them to Indian Creek, who's in the top 5 in the state. We came up short. One game I thought we just didn't compete. Yeah. Then we go down there a couple of nights later, and we competed really well.
Yeah, the OVAC game.
Yeah, right, and had a chance to win it. You're up, and unfortunately we give up 3 runs in the 6th with 2 outs. So, I think the journey for this group has been, as the bigger the games have gotten, we're starting to play better. Yeah. And we're not afraid to say, hey, these are big games. Some coaches don't like saying that. We're on the opposite end of it. We want our guys to know that it means something to play baseball here at Harrison Central, and you're going to play in big games. Yeah. And the expectation is we win these games. It's one thing to play in it, but we don't write the names on the lineup and say, we're playing Toronto tonight. We're just excited that Toronto's a really good baseball program. I got a ton of respect for Coach Perkins and Toronto baseball. Yeah. We want to beat them. Yeah. We want to beat Steubenville Big Red. It means something to beat those guys. And we know what the jersey says. Yep. It says Steubenville Big Red. I remember playing against Zach Clark and Stevie Davis and Lee Bainbridge and these guys. I mean, absolute studs.
Well, I mean, they've put themselves in and I'm sure other teams that maybe are smaller than Harrison, I'm sure they look at Harrison the same way. Yeah. Because it means something to, I don't care if they're winless. It means something to play and beat Steubenville, St. Clairsville, Creek.
You can kind of tell in baseball if the other team thinks you're a big game just based off who's pitching against you. Yeah. If you see the team's number 1 or number 2, you probably say they have a little bit of respect for you. And we've seen a ton of number 1 and number 2s lately. Yeah. And that's what we want to see as we get into postseason for sure. But we want to play good teams. But I think the journey's been, we're starting to play better. I think at one point I told him, I was frustrated after the game, and I told him, I said, guys, we got to play and we got to coach better against teams with a pulse. Yeah. And I didn't mean no disrespect to it, but I felt like it got to the point in that midpoint of the season, we weren't coaching well and we weren't playing well against good teams. And I think some of that was too, we go down to Florida to open up the season, and we play in Florida and Alabama. So then that kind of jammed up our middle part of the season, or even the beginning part of it. We weren't getting a lot of practice days.
Yeah.
It seemed like we were playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We had a couple of those days where we went Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I remember that week.
And it's like, hey, we're using Tuesday as bad as we want to practice, and we're practicing. It's more of a recovery day from the week before. Yeah. So I think we needed practice. And I think, as this team, as they go on that journey, they're starting to believe that, hey, we can play because maybe we have the capability of being a good team as well.
Well, and expectations aren't a bad thing. Pressure's a privilege. And I've had some folks come up to me and ask, how, I hear the Huskies are supposed to be good. What are they looking like? I am somebody who has kind of been trained to not set so high expectations.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they are young kind of plays into that. And it's what I've always told folks is, so now I know what you think, but I'm going to tell you that they're young, right? And that they, a lot of those guys have a couple years ahead of them. And so I'm not saying anything about this year. I'm just saying maybe in a couple years, look out. But it's all about, I think having from a fan perspective, as an organization and as a program, expectations are almost the most sacred thing, because what happens when, I was going to tell you, you don't want to lose when you're in that lull in the middle of the season. You don't want to lose the morale of your team, because then they're not even up for big games.
Right.
And, you look at some of the most, you talked about Saban and some of the big programs and everything. And sometimes, I think it was Urban Meyer that said he struggled to get his guys up for the games against the Purdue, Indiana, those kinds of things. When it's a big game and it's a matchup game, there's no trouble getting those guys up. You don't want the flip of that.
Right.
Because then your morale is gone.
Yeah, for sure. And we say it too, I guess 27 is more than what football gets and what, basketball gets, but you only get 27 opportunities to show how good you are.
Yeah.
And that's if you get great weather and all those things in the spring. So it's a quick season. It feels like we were just in Florida and Alabama, and now we're sitting here talking about postseason stuff tonight. So you get 27 opportunities, so you got to make the most of it for sure. And it goes back to what we said is the process has to be really good. So whether you're playing a team that's 2-15 or 15-2, your process has to stay the same. We warm up, we're stretching at this exact time. We're hitting our BP rounds or this during, when we take BP, everything's got to stay the same. And I think that helps, as you progress into the season, your routine.
Let's take our third and final commercial break, if we could, and then we'll come back and talk a few more things. I think postseason, that's kind of a big topic tonight, as well as a few other things. So with that, we'll be back right after this. We all love a great deal, and we all love a great deal of variety, and that's what you get with Thomas Auto Centers in St. Clairsville, Ohio. You can trade, buy, or sell with Thomas Auto Centers. Listen, Hometown Huddle, I Got Your Six, and Main Street Message, we're constantly on the road. How do we do it? Thomas Auto Centers. That's who we're driven by. All you got to do is go to thomasautocenters.com or visit their location in St. Clairsville. For more details, see the description of the video or the podcast show notes, and with that, back to the episode. We are back to the episode once again, joined by head baseball coach at Harrison Central, Mike Valesko. Coach, it's as we sit right now, it's 8:30 Wednesday night. It's a big night for baseball coaches in Ohio because of the cutoff. Do you have any intel as far as where that stands right now, or is that something that you're going to know maybe in a couple of hours?
Yeah, we'll probably know in a couple hours. This is my favorite time of the year, and I think traditionally we've played better at this time of the year. I think because we're kind of geared up, we're excited for it. So we'll put our records in tonight, and then probably some point tomorrow. It's funny. It's usually your phone's kind of going off all throughout the day because we're old school where schools still vote. We don't use the the RPI or whatever in the other sports. So you get some politicking and you say like, hey, how do you feel about this team? And then you say, well, I beat them. Where are you going to put us? And you start. I love those conversations. I think it's fun for scouting purposes even. You're asking, what do you think about this team up there and maybe in the Tuscarawas County area? So, this for us, it's one of the most exciting times.
Yeah. So they vote on it. No different than does basketball. I think is the same way, isn't it?
I think basketball recently went to the RPI stuff.
Okay.
I think so. So, and I'm on our state board, and and we've had these conversations. Football uses a point system, obviously. Basketball does. I'm old school. I think the vote matters. I think there's so many outliers in baseball. We're going to most likely play all 27 games. We're fortunate that we have turf.
Yeah.
We're fortunate that we kind of push the envelope a little bit. Sometimes it's
Sure.
the weather's not always great. We're going to play 27. Our team is. There's going to be teams that might play 19.
Right.
And you might not think that that's a big deal, but we just said a couple.
That's 8 less data points.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also, if I play 27 games. So I just said, the 1 week we played Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If I'm pushing the envelope here and I'm playing games when the weather's not great, and I'm playing on, Tuesday and Wednesday, but another team's not, well, on Thursday, I'm throwing a kid that's probably the back end of my rotation, but I'm playing somebody that hasn't played all week. I'm seeing their number 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many outliers in baseball. I think it's just so hard. And then the weather in Northeast Ohio versus Southwest Ohio, they're not comparable. I talk to coaches in Northeast Ohio and say, man, we got 5 games in. And then you look at some of the state rankings and teams are submitting stuff. They got 11, 12 games in, early in the season. So I think that voting is so important in baseball in the state of Ohio, and I would hate to see that ever go away.
I think you mentioned that your team starts to play a little better this time of year. You guys are coaching a little bit better, but obviously there's that natural sense of urgency. Do you find that is as coaches, I'm sure that's something you guys got to keep pretty under wraps, because you don't want to let that spill out in your coaching in any kind of negative way. Is that a difficult task to kind of be cognizant of? Okay, this is a big game. We need to win this for the votes and everything else. Yeah. We don't want it to seem, we don't want to seem too stressed out to our players about this, though.
Yeah, we say all the time, you talk about expectations. We're not afraid to talk about it internally. And even say everybody's goal should be the number 1 team in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
If that's not your goal, then what are we chasing?
Yeah.
Because I've said before, well, if you say like, my goal is to just be good, well, then when you're playing in the districts, you say, well, we met our goal. We just wanted to be good this year. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
And we have the expectation of, we want to be the best team in the state of Ohio. We've been really close to achieving that before. So we're not going to lower that standard. And, if you say, well, the goal is to only win 1 or 2 postseason games. Well, what happens when you get to postseason game 3? Is it just, hey, we're happy to be here?
Yeah.
No, the expectation is, we talked about it, we want to win this game. So, you want to be the number 1 team in the state of Ohio. And the big thing that we say is to give yourself a chance, you got to win the district. Now you're left with 16 teams left, so that you have a chance. So we talk about, we want to be in the position to win the district. You can't win it on April 21st, right?
Yeah.
But you can win it or lose it April 20th through April 27th if I have a terrible week of practice and preparation and my process is not good. So are you building throughout? It's a roller coaster at times, right? It's not always easy and straight incline, and the path isn't always that straight for you. There's ups and downs, but how do you handle that adversity? And does that prepare you for, that 3rd week of May? We say 3rd week of May, we want to play our best baseball that we can possibly play, and we want to play when school's out.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. I guess that's another thing that's fascinating, is because myself and a few other folks on your team had graduated, and then it's a week or 2 later, and then everybody's going up to Akron. It's almost like you're still in school a little bit, because you're seeing everybody, and it's a really cool experience. And then the whole community's there. I was telling somebody about that, how you're making the drive and you're passing the Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, and every other plate says Harrison County, and it's just a cool community feeling. I mean, what is your sense of the community buy-in for Harrison Central baseball here? I mean, you get the sense this is a baseball school.
Yeah, and we're fortunate. I agree. I think we're a baseball school, but I think we have a school district that just invests in our student athletes.
Yeah,
and that's in every aspect, whether it's football, basketball, wrestling, cheering, track. We're so fortunate that what we have. And people in the community here, they care about sports. Do they care about academics? Darn right they do, right? Yeah. My wife and I, we've got 2 kids in the building here, and we care about the academic side of things.
Sure.
But I say it all the time that not many people remember what Johnny got on the state science test.
Yep.
Hope he did well. but they're going to know what Johnny did, in the batter's box, or what Johnny did on Friday nights, or did Johnny make a couple of free throws that sealed the deal against, one of your rivals. So, it matters here, and the support that we get from our community, our sports foundation, they're meeting tonight at the country club. The support is incredible. Our community, we went down to Alabama and Florida this year.
Yeah.
We traveled better than some Division I baseball programs. We flew down. We had rentals waiting on us. We stayed at the beach and all these things. We raised quickly with our families and community $25,000 like that.
Yeah.
Not many school districts could do that for baseball.
Sure.
Let's just be honest, any sport. But to do it for baseball, you go out to our complex and a great crowd again tonight. There's places that you want to be on a nice spring day, and Mazeroski Field is definitely one of them. And then you think about the Mazeroski name. Everybody remembers. I don't know about remembers, but they see the videos of the home run. But it's the family. It's
right.
not Bill Mazeroski. It's Robert Mazeroski's complex. And the Mazeroski family and what Legion baseball meant to this community.
Sure. Yeah.
Caddis Legion and Maynard Legion. I mean, you're talking about some of the best baseball in the state of Ohio for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of pride and history here. And you look through some of the photo albums and stuff, it's pretty fun to look at.
You take a step outside of the Harrison Hills district and think of some other communities and think of some other venues, I guess. We usually ask every coach this. Outside of Harrison, what maybe has been, as your time as head coach, your favorite place to coach at on the road?
Yeah, Canal Park in Akron's number one. That is without question.
Well, you're one of few that can say that.
Yeah, Canal Park, there's nothing like it. We've been fortunate to play at some really nice facilities. My favorite in the Eastern District, I guess I have a couple here. And if anybody's ever talked to me, they probably know the amount of respect that I have for Ridgewood baseball. But I know they just turfed their complex this year. I haven't been able to see it yet. I can't wait to get up there. But that was my favorite natural surface.
Okay, yeah.
I loved it. As a kid growing up, Vaquero Field, where Steubenville Big Red used to play.
Okay.
That was the Mecca. That was where every OVAC game was played.
Where's that at?
Right at Franciscan.
Okay.
And that to me was when you played at Vaquero Field, you're playing in a big game.
Yeah.
And it was every postseason game was there, every OVAC game was there. So for me growing up, and I remember we were so fortunate that the last year when Steubenville played at Vaquero before they went to their new complex, which is beautiful, we played up there, and we were fortunate enough that Treston Nemeth hit 2 home runs and we win. That win meant to me, so much. I remember, Coach Fred Hetherington. Coach Freddie is the GOAT of coaching baseball in the state of Ohio, in my opinion. I remember sneaking a game ball out and putting it in my backpack, and it was like that win meant so much to me. Still at my house, that winning a game at Vaquero the last time we were there. So Vaquero for me as a kid growing up, for sure. Ridgewood. I know everybody says that their complex and their field is their favorite, and sometimes I watch guys on the show and they say, "Oh, my favorite place is our field or our gym," and I kind of think, I'm like, no, it ain't. Like, there ain't no way. Like, there ain't no way the gym that you play in, that's your favorite gym. No way. Yeah. If so, you are lying to yourself like crazy.
Sure.
Mazeroski Field is the best, and I love it, and we've played in some big games there, and to me, there's nothing like coming out of that dugout on Maz Field.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And I guess another thing, we talked to Coach Laney, and we actually let the show get off the rails a little bit. I don't know if you've watched that one. I mean, we're talking like pizza theory on the show. He's telling me about, what is it, Amici's?
Yeah. So
I got to go
Coach,
up there still.
Coach took care of us. We were, like I said, we have binders on everybody that's in our district that we play.
Okay.
And they're locked up at the school there, and you kind of add throughout the year and stuff, and spray charts and tendencies and stuff like that. I'm not joking. Ridgewood has their own. That's how much heartbreak they've caused us and how many big games. I told somebody today, and in 2016 when we won the district, we played a 1-run game with them. We were fortunate enough to come out on top. We won the district. I think it was 2021, they beat us, they win the district. 22, they beat us, they win the district. 23, we beat them, we win the district. 25, they beat us, they win the district. So, a ton of respect there. But so we've scouted them for them not being in the OVAC and Buckeye 8.
For sure.
I feel like we scout each other a ton. And so we've had that pizza. It's really good. Coach Barsha and I have gotten it before. and he actually took care of the bill. So it was even better that it was free. So
yeah.
And then so when our 11U team, my little guys, we played at Coshocton last year. We stopped and got pizza on the way home, and I said, I got a place. And they got some old memorabilia in there, and there's a Ridgewood football helmet. And
really?
And I took my son, I put the helmet on my son, and he gave a thumbs down, and I said to those guys. So, pizza places, and I'm a pizza guy, so
for sure.
I think there's a really good one. I'm biased, but across the street, D'Angelo's. Grew up in Harrison County. I love D'Angelo's Pizza in Caddis. But there's some good pizza places.
I think
in the
up the
valley.
street, down the street, across town, you can't go wrong with pizza in Caddis. What do you see your guys when they're in the dugout before a game? Coach Laney said he hates all the energy drinks that he sees. I think I can't remember who it was, and I hate that, but somebody said sunflower seeds. They're guys, which is more traditional. I'm curious, what are your guys walking in with typically?
Yeah, definitely no seeds on turf, and I think you're seeing that it's kind of going away in baseball. I bet we only play on dirt 5 times a year now. So seeds are kind of going away. I see a ton of energy drinks, and I'm not a nutritionist. I can't tell you what's do I think that's the best thing to put in your system? Probably not. But at the same time, I can't yell at them because when they turn around, I'm usually grabbing a Red Bull myself. So I'm an energy drink guy. But listen, I'll let a guy drink gasoline if it gets him ready to play a baseball game. Outside of cracking a cold one open.
Sure.
I don't care what you put in your system if you can play baseball for us and help us win games. So whatever gets you ready. Lance Smith, our shortstop, he's a really big fitness guy. Takes care of his body and eats really well. I hate thinking we in 2013 when Justin Clifford was a coach, and I got a picture of Bryson Porter. We're playing at Weirton, and he's in the dugout eating a hot dog in the first inning. All right. And if you ever get a chance to ask Justin Clifford this story about Bryson Porter eating a hot dog, it's one of the funniest things ever. And I remember Coach Clifford looking at him and saying, "Are you eating a hot dog?" And it was just so mad. And Bryson, being a 14, 15-year-old kid, shakes his head, yeah. And I think then Coach Clifford snapped out. So he hands the hot dog to his brother, who wasn't dressing varsity that game. And Austin Porter sat there. I don't even know if Austin remembers. He held that hot dog, it seemed like for 17 hours. It was probably 2 or 3 innings. Scared to death. He didn't know whether to throw that hot dog away, to eat it, or just to hide underneath the bench. But it's funny is because, so I'm a big, you don't eat food in the dugout. I look over tonight, and Lance Smith is eating a grilled chicken wrap from our concession stand, which if you get a chance, at Mazeroski Field, our concession stand ran by Steph Snyder. I'm going to give her a little plug. She takes care of everything the concession stand. The food that we have there is incredible. But tonight was grilled chicken wrap, and I look over, it's $4.50, and Lance is just crushing a grilled chicken wrap, and I'm just like, he better swing the bat really well.
I think he had an RBI.
Night. And he did. He had an RBI tonight, played a really good game at shortstop. So, again, whatever gets you ready to play. And I think you better, work with the kids, and you better evolve with them because things are changing.
Sure.
I think when I was in school, it was a bottle of water, and you didn't have any food before games. It was just you ate at school, and that was it. Now our parents, they feed them on the bus rides and stuff. I've taken, my son has always gone to games with us. He missed tonight because he's sick, and you got a really good photo the other night of him eating Dippin' Dots, as our bat boy. But now that my daughter has found out that we get snacks on the bus, she does not want to miss away games. I mean, it is so, which is really fun to have. And then she's learned that if we sweep a team, you get ice cream. So a couple of the away games that we've came back from, we've swept the team, and we've had ice cream waiting on us. Oh, man. I mean, that's better than Disney for little kids. So she can't figure out why, when we get beat, we don't get ice cream yet. And she'll learn that as she gets a little bit older. But right now, if she doesn't get ice cream from us, if we sweep somebody, she just runs to the concession stand and says, "My dad's in charge." Little does she know I still have to eventually pay. Or I got to kind of reason with Steph to tell her, I'll get it later on. But it's whatever gets you ready to play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. From pride and egos to ice cream, there are plenty of things in this world that make you want to win, and there's nothing better than winning.
That's right, for sure.
All right, Coach. We appreciate your time this evening, and best of luck this weekend, not only as the coach, but also as kind of the conductor of the whole operation.
Yeah, for sure. Hope to see everybody out. And 5 o'clock Friday, first pitch. And, the one thing you can't control, you asked me earlier about, what's some things that kind of go into it. that Mother Nature. That's the one thing. So keep praying for good weather and stay dry. And we'll see everybody at the ballpark Friday and Saturday.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Coach.
You got it. Thank you.